Now we read about cocoon formation in earthworm. Cocoon formation. The process of cocoon formation takes place after copulation. The first thing which we have to know is that cocoon formation takes place after copulation, and one condition which is required for cocoon formation is that there must be presence of spermatheca. For it, the condition which is required is there must be sperms in spermatheca. This is the condition. These are the conditions, or both are the condition. One is it takes place after copulation, another is there must be sperms in the spermatheca. So now after that, that means after the process of copulation, now let me make an earthworm here. This is the earthworm. This is its anterior end, this is its posterior end, and this is the clitellar region. Now this is the clitellar region. Now what will happen? During the process of cocoon formation, the clitellum produces a type of viscous fluid. This clitellum, it produces a type of viscous fluid which on exposure to air solidifies and forms a membrane around the clitellum. Look here. Clitellum produces a type of viscous fluid and which on exposure to air it solidifies and forms a membranous tubule around the clitellum, and this membranous tubule formed around the clitellum is the beginning form of the cocoon, or it is the preliminary cocoon. So what we have studied, during the process of cocoon formation, clitellum produces a type of viscous fluid which on exposure to air solidifies and forms a membrane around the clitellum, and this membranous tubule which is formed around the clitellum, that is the beginning form of the cocoon. Now after that, the clitellum also produces mucus, and the mucus is deposited. Mucus forms a layer outer to this membranous tubule, and this layer of mucus is called a slim tube. This is called a slim tube. This is called as the slim tube. Now the clitellum also produces albumin. Clitellum also produces albumin. Look here. This is the tubular structure which is formed around the clitellum, and this is the preliminary form of the cocoon. Outer to it there is presence of layer of mucus, that is the slim tube, and now the clitellum produces albumin, and that is deposited on the inner side of this membranous tubule which is formed around the clitellum. Or what we said to that membranous tubule? We said that membranous tubule is the preliminary cocoon. Now after that, this earthworm, look here, this is the earthworm. This is the membranous tubular structure which is formed around it. This is the anterior end, this is the posterior end. Now around the clitellum there is formation of a membranous tubule. Now this earthworm, it starts to wriggle back. It wriggles back. As the earthworm wriggles back, the preliminary cocoon or the membranous structure which is formed around the clitellum, it gets shifted towards the anterior side, and then while moving, it receives egg from the female genital pore. In 14th segment there is female genital pore. It receives egg from the female genital pore, and when it comes here in the region of the spermathecal openings, it receives sperms, and finally it comes out from the anterior end of the body. At the time of emergence, when it emerges out from the anterior end, it has openings at the both end, but these ends get constricted. And it results in the formation of a membranous capsular structure, and this membranous capsular structure, inside which here is presence of egg, here is presence of albumin, albumin is present here, and here is also presence of the sperms, male gamete are also present. So all the things are present, and this structure is called as cocoon. This is what? This is cocoon. So by this way the cocoon is formed. Let me revise once. First thing what we have to know, the process of cocoon formation takes place after copulation, and for the purpose of cocoon formation there must be presence of sperms in the spermatheca. These two are the conditions. It takes place only after copulation, and the main condition is that there must be presence of sperm in spermatheca. At the time of cocoon formation, Clitellum produces a type of viscous fluid. That viscous fluid, when get exposed to the air, it solidifies and it forms a membrane around the clitellum, and this membranous tubule which is formed around the clitellum, that is the beginning form of the cocoon. The clitellum also produces mucus which forms a layer around the membranous tubule, and the layer of mucus is called a slim tube, which helps to make the surface slippery, make the body surface more slippery. And then now the earthworm starts to wriggle back. The earthworm starts to wriggle back. Before that, it also receives albumin. The clitellum also produces albumin, and that albumin is deposited in the inner side of the membranous tubule. The earthworm starts to wriggle back. As it wriggles back, the membranous tubular structure gets shifted towards the front. It receives egg from the female genital pore, it receives sperms from the spermathecal pores, and finally it comes out from the anterior end of the body. At the time of emergence, it has opening at the both ends, while the ends get constricted and results in the formation of a capsular structure. That capsular structure is called as cocoon, and in a season a number of cocoons are formed. In a season, a number of cocoons are formed by a earthworm. The process of cocoon formation continues till there is presence of sperms in the spermatheca. So, what is there during it? What happens at first? Clitellum produces viscous fluid. Clitellum produces viscous fluid which get solidified on exposure to air and forms a membranous tubule around the clitellum, which is the beginning form of cocoon, which is the beginning form of the cocoon. Now, clitellum also produces mucus which forms a tubular structure on the surface of membranous tubule and is called slim tube. Now, clitellum produces mucus which is deposited on the inner side of the membranous tubule. Clitellum produces albumin. Clitellum produces albumin which is deposited on the inner surface of membranous tubule. On the inner surface of membranous tubule, and then the earthworm starts to wriggle back. Now, earthworm wriggles back, and the membranous tubule moves toward anterior end, and receives eggs from female genital pore and sperms from spermathecal pores and sperms from the spermathecal pores. Finally, the membranous tubule comes out from the anterior end of body and the ends of tubule constricts to form a capsular structure called cocoon. So, what is cocoon? If the question is like what is cocoon, then what will be the answer? The answer is cocoon is a capsular structure which is formed by clitellum, inside which egg, sperms and albumin are present, and the process of fertilization also takes place inside it. Thus, cocoon is a capsular structure formed by clitellum, inside which eggs, sperms and albumin, are present, and process of fertilization and development, we read about them later. Process of fertilization and development takes place inside it. Okay, this is the definition of the cocoon. Now, what we have studied, many cocoons are formed. Many cocoons are formed by a earthworm in a season. The process continues till there is presence of sperm in spermatheca. It takes till there is sperms in spermatheca. So, these two are the other things which we have to know. Many cocoons are formed and it takes till there is presence of sperms in the spermatheca. So, this is about the cocoon formation. Now, we read about the fertilization and development. Now, let us read about the fertilization. The process of fertilization takes place inside the cocoon. Fertilization takes place inside cocoon, and as the process of fertilization takes place outside the body, though it is inside the cocoon, it is outside the body. The cocoons are laid on the ground surface. When they are released into the ground surface. As the cocoon, it is outside the body. Though the fertilization takes place inside cocoon, fertilization is external. It is external. Don't get confused with it. Takes place inside cocoon, not inside the body, outside the body. So, it is external. And what we have studied, inside a cocoon, many eggs and many sperms are present. Though many egg and many sperms are present, one egg get fertilized by one sperm to form the zygote, which develops, and all other degenerate and they provide nutrients. That means they act as the nurse cells. They provide the nutrients. Though many eggs and sperms are inside a cocoon, only one egg gets fertilized by a sperm. All other eggs and sperms degenerate and provides nutrients to the developing embryo. So this is about the fertilization. It takes place inside the cocoon. As it takes place outside the body, it is external, and though there is presence of many eggs and many sperms are present inside a cocoon, only one egg get fertilized by a single sperm, and all other egg and sperms degenerate and provides nutrients to the developing embryo. Now after that we read about its development. It also takes place inside cocoon. Development also takes place inside cocoon. Now the zygote is a single cell. From this single cell, multicellular organism, there is formation of a multicellular organism. So for the purpose of the development, the cell, that means the zygote, it undergoes division, and to form the similar type of cell, it undergoes the process of mitosis division. So what is the first process? The zygote undergoes successive, that means the repeated mitotic division. That is, the repeated or the successive mitotic division of zygote is called as cleavage. So what is cleavage? Cleavage is the repeated or successive mitotic division of the zygote, and by cleavage the zygote divides and redivides to form many cells, and after about 64 celled stage, a hollow embryo is formed, and that hollow embryo is called as blastula. After some divisions, hollow blastula is formed, which is single layered embryo, This blastula undergoes some modification. We are not concerned with the detailed study of the development, so we read in brief about the development. We don't read how the blastula is formed, how this blastula gets changed into the gastrula, or we don't go into the detail of the process of blastulation, detail of the process of gastrulation. We simply read the outline of the development. Zygote undergoes successive mitotic division. That process is called as cleavage. After some divisions, hollow blastula is formed, which is single layered embryo. This blastula undergoes some modifications, to form gastrula, which is double layered embryo. Now from this gastrula the new individual earthworm is formed. From gastrula new individual earthworm is formed. Now look here. At first the zygote undergoes cleavage. A hollow embryo, that is called as blastula, is formed. This blastula undergoes modification and it forms the gastrula, and from this gastrula new individual earthworm is formed. Now this new individual earthworm, it emerges out from the cocoon. The cocoon bursts and the earthworm emerges out. Is formed, which emerges out from cocoon, which emerges out from the cocoon. Now this new individual earthworm which is formed, it is as like as the adult earthworm. It is as like as the adult earthworm except in size, and there is absence of the clitellum. The size grows later on and clitellum is also formed later on. The newly formed earthworm, is as like as adult. It is as like as adult except in size and absence of clitellum. This clitellum develops later on. So now as there is no larval form, there is no larval form, so the development is direct. As there is no larval form, development is direct. So this is about the development. So what we have studied, the process of development, it takes place inside the cocoon, and during the process of development the zygote undergoes successive or repeated mitotic division, and the successive or repeated mitotic division of zygote is called as cleavage, and by cleavage after some divisions there is formation of a hollow embryo, and that hollow single layered embryo is called as blastula, and this blastula undergoes some modification to form the gastrula, and from the gastrula, which is a double layered embryo, the new individual earthworm is formed, and the new individual earthworm which is formed, that emerges out from the cocoon, and the new individual earthworm which is formed, that is as like as adult. There is no any larval form, so the development is direct. So in earthworm there is presence of direct development.